on in a while, so excuse me if I kind of lose my train of thought for a minute. And also, I just ran over here from work, and I was thinking as I was driving over here, I knew my hair was going to be a hot mess. And I thought, if any of you used to watch Friends, there was that scene with Monica where they go down, I think they were in Florida, and her hair was like this like humidified mess. Well, I am mostly, if you watched any of my videos today, you saw I was doing micro bubbles. And so I'm in a very humid room all day. And so my hair is always like, I've always got this weird like stuff going on. And I very rarely, when I run and do these videos real quick, like I have to go back to work when I'm done. I very rarely have time to come home and kind of, not be a hot mess. But when something's important, I want to bring it to you, talk to you guys, and have you ask some questions. So I'm in a really unique situation because most of the holistic community, which is my biggest community, and I know that you guys watch a lot of information from the holistic veterinarians and vet techs and people who are just kind of further along maybe in their learning. And so they come on, like this is going to be going live on both Saving Pets and the Spa. So we'll probably have both groups in here. But I'm in a unique situation given this mystery virus that they're calling it, in that I actually work in the industry. I own a boarding facility and a daycare facility and a grooming facility. And so I'm in a unique position to help people out, in that there are a lot of stuff that needs to be talked about. We can talk about so many different things as far as what to do after the fact, how to build your pet's immune system, those kind of things. But if you don't know, you could pick up the phone and you could call your boarding facility. Like we've had people call us and they ask us, what are you doing? But when you ask that question, what are you doing? Are you taking this serious? These are questions that we're getting asked. Do you really know what those answers should be? Because if they say, oh, we're taking it very serious, we're doing X, Y, and Z, is X, Y, and Z actually going to protect your animals? And so that's why I'm here, because I have spent the last 23 years in working in boarding facilities, and I've spent an enormous amount of time studying how to protect my facility from viruses and bacteria. So, and I mean, all these years that I've owned the boarding facility, I've been doing this. So when we're getting phone calls, these phone calls are saying stuff like, what are you guys doing now? There's no now. Viruses have always existed in the air, and bacteria has always been around. And so I have been proactive in keeping my facility as safe from those pathogens as possible for the last 23 years. And because of that, I've been able to evolve over time and change this and look at that and look at this and get into good habits. And so it takes a lot in order for that to happen. So when panic mode happens, right, which is what has happened. And so let me back up a little bit. This live, if you're not sure, if you just saw me talking and thought, oh, what the heck is this crazy lady talking about? Let's just kind of be a little bit clear here. And that what I'm going to be talking about is, I'm sure if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you have to have heard about the mystery upper respiratory virus that is plaguing all of actually US, Mexico, and Canada have made reports of it. And I do it in quotations because nobody really knows what it is or if it is even anything. And so it's awesome. We've been getting really good information from some of the holistic community, from some of the holistic veterinarians. In fact, I think all of them have come on and given their opinion about what they think is going on. Hi, Wendy. By the way, because this runs through two different, well, actually it runs through quite a few. Sometimes on my side, it'll tell me Facebook user. It doesn't tell me who it is. So if I don't address you by your name, it's because I don't know who it is. So I apologize. I'm not trying to ignore anybody. I think it's great when you guys are on here. So, but the thing is that we can talk about all of those great things that, thank God, the holistic community is coming out and talking. I know Dr. Morgan has. We saw some stuff from Dr. Karen Becker and Dr. Bug and just a whole bunch of veterinarians that are talking about what you can do. But what I really want to address is the fact that especially during the holiday season, right? This is the worst time that this could come out. And what's interesting about it is what is being studied right now in New Hampshire and Oregon and all of the studies that are kind of taking place and people are addressing this. This didn't come out in November. This has been around since last year. So it's just that the media kind of jumped on it. I hate to say that because we do most of our boarding during the holiday season. So it seemed like perfect timing. We could use that fear that gets people to read our articles. And I'm not minimizing illnesses in any way, but thanks, Sari. But I do want you to realize that the timing of when this story hit, I believe, was due to the fact that the holiday season was coming. This has been traced back all the way to last year. So way, way, way last year. So they've been looking at it. So know that. And then I wanted to quote something to you guys also from the New York Times. And it's a quote from Dr. Rena Carlson, and she is with the American Veterinary Board. And she said to the New York Times, current disease patterns aren't consistent with the emergence of a new highly transmittable pathogen. So they're not finding this to be something that is new or highly transmittable, that kind of thing. So, but there is, New Hampshire Veterinary School is looking at possibly it being something, a pathogen in the gut, in the microbiome, possibly being a bacteria. So there's still kind of a lot of what's going on. But I'm not here to talk to you guys about what it is, what's going on. I'm going to talk to you guys about, in the event that you have to board your dogs, what are you looking for and what role can you guys play? And this is important. So I really hope you're listening to this. So whether you bring your dogs to me or you live in other parts of the country and all over the world, I know that you all have the most power in driving the change that, in my opinion, the boarding, daycare, grooming, and even veterinary hospitals need. And so when we look at the idea that there is a virus out there, and then everybody says that's the problem, you have the whole community, every dog owner, every boarding facility, daycare, groomers, walkers, everybody has heard about this. It's in every news outlet out there. But when I look at what the problem is, what I really think the problem is that we don't have a standard of care in any of those facilities. So what I mean by that is there is no standard for keeping pathogens and bacteria and all of this stuff out of these environments. It's a free-for-all. Nobody comes out and tells us how to clean our facility, what needs to be there, how often you should clean, how many dogs should be housed in closed-in areas. When we get kennel licenses, we get a kennel license and they just ask us how many dogs we have. They don't ask us anything about our cleaning, our protocols. So they just say you have to have you have to have certain vaccines, depending on what county you're in there, requires certain vaccines on dogs, but there is no protocols. So what I'd like to take this time in doing, other than answering your calls, I would like to talk to you with what I have found to be really, really effective in how I manage pathogens inside the spa. And when I say that you guys play a huge role in this, is the reason I say that is because if you call a boarding facility and you ask if they have, like, I'm going to talk to you guys right now briefly about HEPA filters. So I have HEPA filters throughout my entire facility. So they're everywhere. They're in my front office. They're everywhere. They're everywhere that an animal would walk. And they're very specific HEPA filters. So a lot of HEPA filters will take care of viruses. So they can take these small viruses and some of them won't take care of bacteria. So I use one called an Allen HEPA filter, and it has an ionized, and I know I'm going to probably mess this all up because I am not a scientist, but I looked into these very heavily because I knew that a lot of things that gets transmitted from dogs is not always a virus. Sometimes it's bacteria, which is what we're facing right now. We're not sure if it's a bacteria or a virus. So when you have this special HEPA filter that Allen makes, it actually has an ionized button that I have to keep on all the time. And what that does is it puts these particles into the air and they grab hold of bacteria and it pulls it down into the filter. So without that, I could just be getting viruses that go through, but leaving the bacteria pathogens that are out there. So that is one thing that I think I actually literally think it should be a law that if you own a boarding facility, a child's daycare facility, senior centers or senior caregiving places, I think it should be a law that they have this type of a HEPA filter in their facility, because without it, very little is being done. So that's number one that you want to ask your boarding facilities. Do you have HEPA filters, and what kind are they? Are they running every 24 hours? Do they have more than one, right? Because they're not cheap. I'm not going to lie. They're not cheap. They can be very, very expensive. They usually cover up to about anywhere between 750 to 1,200 square feet. So imagine if you have a boarding facility that is 15,000 square feet, and you have one HEPA filter, well, big whoop-de-doo, right? And those HEPA filters, those things are usually not designed to carry on that much, right? So even though you might have, they're built for people's homes. And so if you have it in your home and they say it covers 1,500 square feet and you have one, they're expecting to deal with so much pathogens that are, 5 or 6 people maybe live in that home. They're not designed to deal with 150 dogs that are constantly running and barking and all of that kind of pathogens. So the other thing you want to ask your daycare and boarding facilities is how often do they change the filters? Okay. So for example, if you look up, thank you, Lori. Lori's behind the scenes posting all this stuff for you guys. So the other question you want to, how often are you guys changing your filters? Because those aren't cheap either. So you could find out that you have a boarding facility that has HEPA filters and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And they have the ionized ones and this is amazing. So it's going to do bacteria and virus. That is going to be super helpful for my dog. But you ask them how often they change their filters and they kind of sit there with a blank stare on their face. And Alan will tell you to change them. I think it's every year is what is recommended in your home. So we do it every 3 months. So our filters, it's on an automatic, and our filters come every 3 months because I know that I am dealing with a lot more than just a home environment. So you want to make sure that not only does your boarding facility carry HEPA filters in their facility, that it's ionized, but that they're changing their filters regularly. And if they don't have the answer to that, then they don't know. They're probably just like, I don't know. We just bought it once 10 years ago, maybe, and we're not changing the filters. So that's super important to know those things. And the reason I really want you guys to know that is because if you start asking your boarding facilities, your grooming shops, your veterinarian hospitals, truthfully, a veterinarian hospital that does not carry these kind of HEPA filters throughout their entire environment, I don't think is taking a very proactive approach, considering the fact that where are the sick dogs going? They're going there. So you want to make sure, and you want to ask, do you guys carrying any kind of HEPA filters in here? Are they ionized? If you guys keep asking those questions, guess what's going to happen? Somebody's ears are going to go up, and then we're going to force the change that we need in the industry. They're going to start saying, oh my God, this is something I have to have in order to have people want to board their dogs with me. So that's the first question, and the best line of defense that I don't want to say it's the best because there's a lot that I'm going to teach you guys tonight, but that is one of the big things that should be done, and it is not required by law. So ask those questions before you board your dogs this weekend. And if you can't find a boarding facility that does that, then you've got a little bit of a problem, because that's an easy no-brainer for me that should be done. Oh, Wendy, you said I have the right one at home and didn't know it. That's awesome. Yeah, people don't really realize what that is. Make sure if you have the ion button, it's to the left of the machine. So if you're looking at the top of it, all the way to the left, it'll say ion. Make sure that's on. Without ion, you're only doing viruses. You need to make sure that you're doing both, Wendy. So especially around this time of year. So the other thing, as far as viruses, I do want to let you guys know that if this turns out to be a kennel cough, which is the thing that is also being talked about within the industry, is possibly a kennel cough. Kennel cough has been around forever, and there's a couple of different strains of kennel cough. So you hear kennel cough, and then there's a whole bunch of strains underneath it, and one of those is Bordetella. That's the one that you get vaccinated for those kind of situations. So And those have had cases where those turn into pneumonia. So it isn't like all of a sudden we have a kennel cough case that's turning into pneumonia, and that's never happened before. That has always happened. There has been random cases of dogs where the kennel cough turns into pneumonia. So just keep in mind, guys, that I just told you the AVMA is considering this probably not a new mystery virus that's going around. So if that's the case, the reason why that's important is because, especially if you do board your dogs on a regular basis and you do daycares and you do take your dogs outside to dog beaches and dog parks and stuff, there's a real big probability that your dog's already been exposed to it. So you don't have to be as fearful, because it's just like with any kind of a cold. Once you've had it, your body starts to build immunity to it. So let's talk a little bit about other things that are absolute. I'm not boarding my dog here unless. So number one for me would be no HEPA filters. Nothing to filter that air to try to keep the environment as clean as possible. So that would be my first. I'm not boarding here ever, regardless, because like I told you, viruses and bacteria, this kind of stuff's been going on for years. So number two for me is no waiting period. So it is imperative that when you bring a dog to a boarding facility, we often just think about our own dog, what's going on with our own dog. And we forget that what everything else is coming into the space, right? So all of that air that is being transmitted from dog to dog, and just from barking, they bark and they spread air and all that kind of stuff. Well, what I'm hearing a lot from other boarding facilities is, well, we're requiring more vaccines. We're requiring, and the reason they can say that, right? That seems silly to think. How can you require more vaccines? I just got my dog a parvo shot 2 weeks ago. I can't give him another one. What they're referring to, most likely, I can't guarantee this, but most likely what they're referring to is the Bordetella vaccine, the kennel cough vaccine. Well, the kennel cough vaccine, sorry, my glasses are giving me the biggest glare. The kennel cough vaccine has, excuse you, my cat, oh my gosh, my laptop is on a box, and I didn't realize that the box had an opening, and my cat just crawled into the box, and now my laptop is going to be like all over the place. So the kennel cough vaccine has always kind of had this broad range of when you give it. Like, for example, some veterinarians will give it every 6 months. Some will give it every 3 months. Some will give it once a year. Some will, oh my gosh, I wish you guys could see what's going on with my cat in the box. Kitty, get out. This was a bad idea for me to put my laptop on top of a box, but I'm sitting in a low chair. Anyway, so what I think that I'm assuming that they mean is that they're going to up the amount of Bordetella vaccines that they give your dog. So in other words, if you're going to board this weekend or next weekend or holiday for Christmas, and your dog had a vaccine for Bordetella 2 months ago, they may say, you know what, we need a fresh one. There's two problems with that. One, we don't even know what this is. It hasn't been identified yet, or have any idea whether it is a strain of kennel cough. And even if it is a strain of kennel cough, it doesn't mean you can get vaccinated for Bordetella and that's going to cover it. So that's the first problem. The second problem is if they're going to require all these dogs to rush out and hurry up and get more vaccines, a lot of these types of vaccines are live, they're modified live viruses. And so there's been an enormous amount of studies on vaccines that can shed. And so if we're requiring all these facilities, we don't think so, Christine, right? Well, I shouldn't say we as if I'm some scientist out there doing the studies. I have not been able to find anything that says that it affects cats at this time. So certainly do not know, but it should still be something that everything that I'm telling you should still take place for your cats and your dogs, regardless, because viruses have always affected cat hotels and dog hotels, all of them. So everything I'm telling you does not change just simply because it's a cat boarding facility and a dog boarding facility. We still need to do the exact same thing to make sure that the air is clean. So, but right now we haven't found anything that says that it can or cannot affect cats. So we don't know. I haven't heard of any cats having any kind of upper respiratory infection stuff going around right now. So I doubt it. But then again, we haven't really had any cases going around. So I don't, I have one dog right now that we're working with that we don't know. It's been since back in October, which is the other thing I want to tell you guys, depending on where you are. I think this thing is kind of whatever, if it is anything, and if it's not just typical kennel cough that's kind of going around, I think whatever it is over. So I have one dog right now that got sick back in October, and then I have two other ones that are better now, and they got sick back in October also. So whatever this is, if it is even anything different than regular kennel cough, I think it's gone, but you never know. So going back to the vaccines. So if these facilities are not having a 2-week waiting period, that means that a dog could go get vaccinated on Tuesday and get thrown into the same facility that your dog is going to be in, and then be barking or walking around, breathing. And certain vaccines like the kennel cough vaccine, parvo vaccine, I know those two particularly, according to Dr. Dodds, are high shedding vaccines. They're live modified vaccines, which means that the virus is alive. And so it doesn't mean that your dog would necessarily come down with kennel cough, but it is another thing that your pet would have to fight off. And especially if you have an animal who's immune compromised, which is the other thing I want to talk about in a few minutes. But so you want to make sure there's a 2-week waiting period. At the very least 2 weeks. Some places I've heard do 48 hours. I think that is ridiculous. It takes a lot more than 48 hours for your dog to build immunity. So let's say you're one of these people who, I shouldn't say one of these people, that sounded really bad. Let's say that you are really comfortable with getting vaccines and you want to have your dog protected from the flu virus or Bordetella or parvo. Parvo is a deadly disease. So I don't I didn't mean anything by that by saying these people. But let's say that you're worried about your dog getting parvo, and you should be. It's a deadly disease. And you vaccinate your dog for parvo, which, by the way, parvo is a puppy disease. So if you have an older dog, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you had a puppy and you wanted to get him the parvo vaccine so he could go into a facility and be protected, he's not going to be protected in 48 hours. And he's going to be his immune system's going to be a little bit fragile. And so you want, not only for your own dog's purpose, but for the environment's purpose, to have a 2-week waiting period. So that's number 2, right? We talked about filters. Absolutely, 100%. If they don't have them, gone. Number 2, 2-week waiting period for all vaccines. And kind of couple that with the fact that if they're requiring more Bordetella vaccines, I just don't see how that's going to protect your dog. I think that's putting your dog more at risk to say, I'm going to give you extra vaccines right now. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. You guys know that I'm not. But I am very responsible with what vaccines and how often we give vaccines. So I think that throwing your pet's immune system into this fight and then putting him in a stressful environment. So the longer period of time that your dog can go with a vaccine, the better. So if you can get your dog vaccinated 4 months before a boarding facility and he gets to go home and build those antibodies and not be stressed, all of those things, then you're going to be at a better position when you put your dog into a stressful environment around other dogs. So the longer period of time you can go without the vaccine expiring, the better. And that's number 2, vaccines. Number 3, that I really want you guys to pay close attention to is when your boarding facilities are checking in your dogs, right? They want to ask you any changes in your dog's health, so you want to look for that. Coughing, sneezing. Now, keep in mind that there's one thing you learned about COVID. People can walk around and they're fine, and they're actually carriers of it before anything shows. So it's a good thing, because we had one dog the other day come in, and the woman, she didn't even know about this virus, so no one's mad at her. But we asked her if her dog had been coughing, and she says, well, no, but he had a little bit of a runny eye, so we sent her home. Turns out the dog's fine, but it was something we weren't going to take a risk with, and so we sent her home. So you want to make sure that when your dogs are getting checked in, that the front office staff is asking questions about your dog. That's super important. And then we're going to talk about how do we clean the facility, right? So everybody's talking about, oh, we're buying antibacterial cleansers and this, that, and the other thing. So there's a little bit of a problem with that, because that's great. I'm not saying we shouldn't be using stuff that kills viruses and bacteria. Of course we should. But most of the time in these facilities, it's just mopped. And so they have a mop bucket, and they spend a lot of time mopping, which of course, because they're thinking in terms of, I don't want the place to smell. Of course, nobody wants your place to smell. That's gross. But in terms of viruses, you have to do a lot more. So mopping is great all day long. That's what we do. We mop. But every day we do what is like I call it our shop vac procedure. We call it doing the floors. And what that means is that we take all of our dogs out of the area, and we do this every morning at about between 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning. I have staff that comes in, and we move all of our dogs. That's the only time we can do it, because that's when we have the least amount of dogs in our facility. And so we move all of the dogs into one area, and then we will take antibacterial cleansers. And oh my God, my box is getting attacked. Okay, mental note, Carrie, don't put your laptop on top of a box with cats, because all they care about is my box. Ah, Tim, can you come get your cat, your crazy cat? What is happening? Oh my gosh. Okay, now my cats are fighting. Not fighting, but one's in the box and one is, yeah. I don't know. Can you just get me something else to put the laptop on then? CJ's in there, and look at, can you guys see? Is she still in there? She came out? Okay, good. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. No, now it's too high.
It's the same box.
Oh, it is? Okay. Sorry. If I put it on the table, it's too low. No, go. My cats are just crazy. Sorry, guys. No, it wasn't. It was actually CJ, and I love that you guys know my cat's names. No, it was CJ, who's actually the queen of the house, and Nellie. CJ was in the box, and Nellie was trying to attack her. Oh God, why are we attacking my box? Okay, I so wish you guys could see this. It's funny. Okay, so making sure. See, I don't know who it is. Is that you, Lily? Because you're the only person I've been helping. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it is fun, and she keeps attacking it. Go away, Nellie. She's not in there anymore. Look she's not in there. She thinks she's in the box. Okay, you're not helping. Okay, I'm gonna have to. This isn't gonna work. My cat. Okay, so now you guys have to look up my nose, probably. Oh, good. Lori just told me. Hi, Lily. Yeah, some reason it doesn't tell me who it is. So, okay. So where was I? Cleaning. Okay. So when we put our cleaners down on the floor, we scrub it a lot. I mean, it's like a big bucket of water, and we use different things. Sometimes we use bleach, because that is really good. Sometimes I use vinegar. Orange peel is what I really like to do with vinegar. And then we'll clean the whole floors like that. And then we actually shop back in. See? Now she jumped on the box and it fell. And then we shop back it out. So we are extracting out everything that has been on that floor. And then we go over it with super hot water, just hot water. And the reason we do that is because your dogs are going to be walking on those floors. So we want to make sure when we're using stuff like bleaches, those kind of things to kill viruses and those things, we want to make sure that your dogs aren't going to be stepping on any residual leftover stuff. So find out how your facilities are cleaning their environments. If all they're ever doing is mopping, it's questionable to me. This is why I talk about standard practice. I really think that there needs to be some laws on standard practice of cleaning facilities. And then we do all of the floors. We call it doing the floors. And so then once that floor is done, we put dryers on it. We dry the floor, like I said, mopping it all up with just plain water. And then we do the next floor. We move all the dogs into that one. Then we do the next floor, and we just do all of our floors that way. So that's one thing. It's so gross, Wendy. It's so gross. It's so gross. It's so gross. And I see it in so many facilities where all they do is mop, 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 mop. I'm like, ugh, that's why it smells. And that happens in veterinary hospitals. It happens in boarding, daycare, grooming shops, where they just like, okay, get the mop. And then they just mop the place down. It's so disgusting. It is. It's so gross. So the other thing is the mop bucket itself. Okay. So you want to make sure that during the day when they are mopping, there should be 2 mop buckets. And both those mop buckets should have, if you're not familiar with professional or what is it called? I don't know, like commercial mop buckets, they should have the little pail in there that when you put the mop into the clean water and you drain it, that drained mop goes into another section. But aside from that, they should have 2. Yeah, pet stores. They should have 2 mops, because what we do is we have 2, and then both of them have our regular mop that we're using has vinegar and orange peel, just straight orange peel oil, because vinegar is not, it's food grade vinegar. It cleans really well, but it's non-toxic to your dogs if they happen to step on it. And then we use 100% orange peel, which is also not toxic to your dogs. And so the first mop, if I pick up pee during the day, it goes straight into that first mop, and then we drain that grossness into the other one, and then it goes into the second mop, which is really clean water, and then we drain that one into it, then we tap it onto a towel, and then we mop the floors. So you want to make sure that there are 2 mop buckets. How to properly use a mop. You'd be surprised at how I have to teach this. This is why it doesn't happen. This is why that we need a standard of care, and you guys are going to be the driving force for this. If we're going to keep these animals healthy, then there's so much that has to be done. It was so funny because I was just writing a press. I'm writing a little, trying to put together a press release, and somebody's helping me with it, and he said, give me your bullet points of all of the things that you guys do. And I did. And after I did it, I was like, oh my God, like this has been something I've been doing for years. So it just seems so habit for me. It doesn't even occur to me how many things that we do to make sure, I shouldn't say make sure, because you can't guarantee anything. What I can guarantee you, and other facilities should guarantee you, is that they've done everything that they can do. And so that is something that I want you guys to ask. I worked for Ecolab for several years. Hygiene. Nobody has a clue. No clue at all. Okay. So 2 mop buckets at the very least. 3. Sometimes I think about going to 3. If I had, that's one of the things too, is the facility that you're in, the more dogs that are housed in the area, the higher the risk, right? So depending on how you look at that. But we are a small facility. So we don't do large dogs for boarding. We do for grooming, but we don't do large dogs for boarding. And we don't board 150 dogs. So I am perfectly fine with 2 mops. If I had 150 dogs and I was constantly in that mop thing, and I think 3 would be more efficient. We also change that mop bucket about every 30 minutes. So both of them get changed about every 30 minutes. So if your dogs are boarding in a bigger facility and you're like, oh my God, there's like 80 dogs here, 150 dogs here, you're going to want three mop buckets, and make sure that they're changing it. Like, how often are you changing it? They should know the answer to that. If you asked anyone in my staff, how often do you guys change, except for the front girls, because they have no idea because they're never in the back. But if you asked any of my staff, how often do you guys change that mop bucket? They would probably say every 15 minutes. They feel like it. I don't think it's every 15 minutes. So Active Plus neutralizes urine, 100%. Look online. Awesome stuff. Yeah, you can look up that stuff. Keep in mind that it's not the smell that that is secondary to why I do what I do, because I obviously don't want it to smell, but that kind of happens naturally. But what I'm looking for is stuff that will help kill viruses and bacteria. That's most important to me, is viruses and bacteria, and making sure that whatever I'm using does that. But I know some of those neutralizers work great. Thanks, Leah. There's just so much involved in what we do. So that is making sure that they're cleaning the facility properly. The other thing we do in order for cleaning is we use 100% alcohol. And what we do with that is we take the alcohol, we spray it periodically throughout the air. So we'll do that. But we also take the alcohol and we wipe down all of the gates for where our dogs are boarding. So we use alcohol for that, and we'll put it on a rag and we wipe down everything, because some surfaces can hold bacteria and viruses. So we're constantly using alcohol as our cleaners on gate handles, door handles, anything that both us and your dogs are going to come in contact with. So alcohol is number one, we like to have that. You'd be surprised how many times, if you ever walk into the spa and you freshly smell alcohol, it's because a lot of times when we've had a lot of dogs in the front lobby, even though we have the air purifier in the front lobby, the girls will go and spray alcohol really quick just because we're trying to do our best, because we can't always know if an animal is carrying something. Yeah, it is. It really gets rid of that smell. It does kill bacteria and virus. That's awesome. I'll have to look it up, because that is the most important thing to me. I'm always looking for something that is non-toxic to the dogs, which is important because my day-to-day mopping is hard because the dogs are stepping in it. But finding stuff that we can clean the floors with. That's why in the day we don't use bleach, but when we're doing that shop vac cleaning, we use bleach. Okay, so those are the things we do to some of the things. I'm going to talk about another thing that is not a guarantee. You do not have to have this. Your boarding facility does not have to have this. It's something that makes me feel good. I can't say that I 100% can say that this works, but I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the plants that NASA used to clean air, that filters air, that plants can filter air. We do know that. Well, there was a lot of studies done on certain plants that do that. So if you were to come into the back of the spa, you'll even notice in the front of the spa, we have 3 big giant plants behind the receptionists. Those aren't there just for looks. Those are very specific plants that I chose because they actually filter the air as well. We also have those all over the back. They're everywhere back there. So they're in all the room. They're up on the walls. And so we have a lot of plants that I put in there because they're supposed to filter air as well. But that's just kind of would be a bonus if somebody had that. Carrie, I can send you a sprayer. Get with me. It's a plug-in I use to use sprayer in nursing homes and cruise ships. Yeah, I'd love to look into it. Always looking for something. I also have to be really, really careful for dogs breathing in stuff that could cause allergies, those kind of things. So there's so much stuff. So there's a whole list of them. Just look up air purifying NASA, and there's a whole list of them listed, and they'll tell you, and they're what cleans the air. So they're a really good idea to have in your homes, in boarding facilities, daycares, nursing homes, all of those kind of things. Spider plants. Yep. I have, that's a lot of them are spider plants that are in there. So those are some of the things that you want to be looking for when you're going into your boarding facility. So, but let's also talk about water bowls, right? So water bowls are also a constant way that things can get transmitted through dogs. There's a lot of stuff that can get transmitted through the water bowls. So what do we do? Number one, this is probably my biggest nemesis. This is the biggest challenge for me. For number one, what we do is we always use stainless steel. So some places will use plastic. Plastic can harbor more bacteria than stainless steel, so we want to use it. I looked into copper bowls. Be very careful with this because a long time ago I looked into using copper bowls because copper really will kill bacteria and it will kill viruses. So it sounds great on the surface as a boarding facility for me to have a bowl that constantly is killing. However, copper can be absorbed by your dog, and I don't know what everybody's diet is, and I didn't want to create too much copper in a dog's diet. So I had to eliminate the idea of having the copper bowl, although at first I was so excited about it. So stainless steel right now, you want to make sure your boarding facility has stainless steel bowls. Those bowls should be cleaned very regularly, about every 20 minutes, 30 minutes at best. But no guarantee, right? I could clean the bowl and then one dog could go drink out of it, and then the other dog comes right behind him and drinks out of him 2 seconds later. So it makes it difficult. So what do? There's 2 things that can be done. One, I put honey inside the bowls. Honey is supposed to be antibacterial, antifungal, anti-everything. I don't actually have to look to see if it's antiviral. Oh, it is. It is. No, it is. It is. So I've been putting a little bit of honey in the bowls, but I'm really, really interested in, if anybody can find this for me, I will be so happy. And keep in mind, I am very aware of the ones that I've already seen on the market, but they do make a cat bowl. The problem is it's a cat bowl and it's too small, but it has a UV light in it. And so what it does is it's constantly flowing the water through a UV light, and then it comes out and it goes in the bowl. So I have one but it's just not big enough. I need a bigger one. So right now I am making sure that the bowls are constantly changed, and we're putting the honey in the bowl to try to minimize any kind of bacteria that might get left behind. So, but that is a problem, that facilities really, and me included, have to face the reality that may be something that makes it harder. You could ask, the other thing is, I know one of the questions people ask me is also where your clients also take their pets besides your facility. Yeah, that's hard. We don't know where else the pets are going and what they're doing and where else they're going. I have no idea. So started putting the honey in my dog's bowls, and she drank most of the bowl like it was candy. Yeah, be careful, because it is, I mean, pure raw honey is actually really healthy for your animals, which is why I started putting the honey in the bowls, just to kind of help that, which we're going to talk about that, what you guys can do leading up to a boarding stay in order, because it really does, your dog's immune system starts way back. So we're going to talk about leading up to coming into a boarding facility, what you guys can do to ensure that your animals are prepared for it. So we'll talk about that. But water bowls is something that can be a little challenging for boarding facilities. So one of the things that people ask a lot is, I want to keep my dogs separate. So in my facility, the dogs are free run. So they kind of get to be everywhere. We don't have kennels that we put them in. And so they're kind of with each other all the time. The thing I want you guys to know is that keeping your dogs separate under the same roof, it probably brings down your probability a little bit, but it's airborne. So it can move throughout. When people are walking by, it can move. We're touching the dogs all under the same thing. So if that's your okay, I'm going to be fine, I'm just going to take my dog and tell them to keep him separate the whole time, just know that you're probably not, you might be causing a bigger problem, because if that stresses your dog out, if there is a facility that you're going to where your dog wants to be around other dogs and you keep him separate and he's pacing and barking and stressed all out, you probably made a higher probability that he's going to get sick. Because just so you know, you could have a whole bunch of dogs. Back when I was still kind of learning about viruses and understanding how they are transmitted and what's going on and how I'm going to keep my facility free of it, we would have kennel cough viruses come through quite often, to be honest with you. And now almost never. I wish I could say, I used to be able to say it had been 8 years, but we did. And truthfully, I'm assuming he got it here. I do have a dog that got kennel cough, and I'm just assuming it came from my place, but maybe it didn't. I don't know how much she takes the dog everywhere else. But it's interesting to me because he was the only one that called and the only one that told us. So it's interesting to me that you can have, at our max is 35 dogs. I can have 35 dogs and only one dog ends up with it when I know it's been running around the whole facility. So it really has to do with your dog's own immune system. And so if your dog is a stressed dog, you don't want to create any more stress on your dog. So separating your dog could be in the air. And if he was out playing with the other dogs and that made him happy and not stressed, then he would be better off than if you took him and put him behind a kennel and then he's barking and pacing and he's upset the whole time. So keep those things in mind. The most important thing is that your dog's immune system is prepared for it, the facility is prepared for it, and that we can keep your dog as least amount of stress as possible. That's your best chance for your dog. So we talked about the air quality, how we do that. We talked about the bowls. What do we do about that? So if you are taking your dog to a boarding facility and they've got A, B, C, D, E, all of those things, bring them a thing of honey and ask them to put a little bit of that into the water bowls. They're going to be worried. They should be on heightened alert right now because of how much this is going around. Well, when I say going around, I mean how much the news, I don't think it's going around, to be honest with you guys. I don't think that this is anything more than what we have always kind of seen. Yes, it might be a new variant of a virus, but I'm certainly not. I know a lot of people that own boarding facilities, and none of us are having like this thing that they're talking. So when I say it's going around, I'm talking about the media sending it around. But because this is being talked about a lot of boarding facilities are on heightened alert. So if you brought your own honey in there and said, hey, look, you can use this for the whole facility, but could you put it in the water bowls because it's antibacterial and it's not harmful to the dogs and maybe it'll help just in case. It's not going to hurt. So why not? That's how I feel about it. It's not going to hurt. Why not? Let it do its job. So that's those things. I talked to you guys about vaccines. I talked to you guys about cleaning. I talked to you guys about water bowls. So the other things I want to talk to you guys about is what we do to prepare our dogs to go into what will be a stressful environment, no matter how much you love your boarding facility. They are not home. Their routine is being broken, right? My routine at the spot is not your routine at home. And so when we break routines in dogs, they can be super happy there, but I'm supposed to eat at 6:30 on the dot every night. And at the spa, I'm like, I'm sorry, sweetie. So are all 20 of you. So you're going to eat at 7. And that can stress a dog. That little tiny time change can stress a dog. So they're going to be under stress. So what are we going to do? First, what we're going to do is we're going to start preparing them now. So we're going to start making sure, we're going to make sure that we're not using any flea and tick stuff. Stop it. If you're worried about your dog's immune system while going into holiday boarding, and he's supposed to have flea and tick stuff on December 10th, what's the date today? December 8th, and he's going into a boarding facility on December 20th, stop. Just skip it this month. Let's give his immune system a little rest for a little bit so that he can prepare if he's going to be going into any of this. So we want to be really careful about putting anything in that would be immune suppressing. We already talked about vaccines, so I would tell you, I can't tell you not to vaccinate. If they are up to date, don't do any extra ones. Don't do extra ones. And make sure you have that time in between there. No flea and tick stuff. I personally don't ever put that on my dog, but don't do it right before you go into it. Like a lot of times people think in their head, oh, I don't want him to get fleas at the boarding facility because everybody else's kid is gross, but mine, right? That's what we do, right? Oh, I don't know who else is going to be there. But don't do it. Trust me, you'd rather have fleas on your dog than you would your dog being ill. So no flea and tick stuff going into a boarding facility. At the spa, we bathe all of our dogs before they go home. If they've been there for at least 3 days, we check all of our dogs. So at the spa, they're not going home with fleas. So I wouldn't worry about it, but I don't know about other boarding facilities. So no flea and tick stuff. I would skip your heartworm going into a boarding facility. I would make sure that what you're feeding your pets right now is very healthy. So I would start adding in. So we know that vitamin D is really good at helping our bodies deal with colds. We know that for a fact, but I'm not asking you guys to give your dogs a vitamin D supplement. Don't do that. Can I repeat that again? Do not give your dog a vitamin D supplement. They can be very dangerous if we don't know what your dog's vitamin D level is. So what I am suggesting is that you start feeding a whole food diet that has good vitamin D in it, because that's safer. And so that's going to be sardines, mushrooms, those kind of things. So leading up to a boarding situation, start giving stuff like sardines, mushrooms, those kind of things to start preparing. Vitamin B12 is a really good immune booster. So we can start giving vitamin B12 leading up to, you can't do it the day before. That's not going to work. Start now. I don't know when you guys are planning on boarding, but if you're going to be boarding in the next 2 weeks, start now. Start building up your dog's immune system with mushrooms and vitamin B12 and keeping away anything that would suppress your dog's immune system. Nematodes are great. Absolutely, nematodes are great for fleas, but it does require, I don't have grass, but other facilities might, I don't know. So start building up your dog's immune system before they're going to the groomer, before they're going to the boarding facility, before they're doing any of those things. Start getting their immune system prepared for it. If you have a stressed dog, then you know that your dog is going to be stressed. And I told you most dogs are going to be stressed, but I'm talking about the for sure stressed dog. So I can give the dogs fermented honey garlic that I made. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. Garlic would be a really good one. Garlic is something you don't want to give a dog that has an autoimmune problem. So if you have a dog that has lupus, Cushing's disease, those kind of things, garlic is something we need to stay away from, but only in the event that your dog has those two things. Otherwise, garlic is great. But you want to start looking into what we do to increase our immune system and then also stress. So we're going to talk Oh yeah, absolutely. Garlic's good for fleas as well. So long as your dog doesn't have, I'm naming the two most common immune Addison's. I'm trying to think of some of the most common ones. If you're so long as your dog doesn't have Addison's or Cushing's disease or Batman's messing with the. Here's Batman's going to make his announcement. It's getting close to dinner time, so you should be fine. So as long as they don't have those immune system problems, you can do garlic. And then I talked about stress. So we need to talk about stress. So if you have that dog that every time you board him, they're like, oh God, he's just a stress case. You're driving in the car and he's already doing this, and you're like, oh my God, or it's his first time boarding. 21 days, if you can. If it's already past 21 days, start now. But 21 days leading up to a boarding stint to keep them calm, start giving them a tiny bit of CBD. You microdose it. You give them a little teeny tiny bit of CBD to keep their cannabinoid system mellow. And you start doing it every day, microdose a little bit, leading up to not the day they go in for boarding. That's not going to work, because stress is one of the biggest factors in whether or not your dog gets sick or not. So I'll give you an example. I had a dog years ago, and this is why I talk about all these things. So years ago, I had this client call. She was a first-time client. She had been kicked out of every boarding facility. And when I say kicked out, that's harsh. The boarding facilities couldn't handle the amount of stress that her dog had. It was so anxious. It was barking. It was just, it's sad. No one wants to watch a dog go through that. So a lot of these boarding facilities were saying, we just can't handle this level of stress. And so she contacted us, and I said, well, we can give it a try. I don't know. We'll give it a try. So she brought her dog in, and the dog was all of everything that they said, just a nervous wreck. I could barely get near the dog. It took me days to get this dog. When she brought the dog in, she had put Advantage on, between the shoulder blades. So it was the topical. And when animals come to us that have that topical put on, we have to wash them immediately because they're around other animals and they can get it in their eyes. So that's how I knew she did that, because when she came in, I had to tell her, I'm so sorry. I didn't relay this to you better, but I have to give your dog a bath immediately in case another dog comes up to it. So I always had that in the back of my mind, that this dog had just had flea and tick put on him. She was an extremely nervous dog. Took me days to be able to get to her, and I finally did. I was able to get to her. I was able to get her to take treats from me. I was able to get her to eat. I was able to get her sit in my lap. It was really quite amazing. I love watching that transfer. Well, guess what? The dog went home, and 3 days later, she called me, and her dog had kennel cough. And nobody else that stayed that weekend ever called, ever reported anything that their dogs had kennel cough. And it was all because of stress. So somehow, somewhere, it was in the environment, and her dog is the one that got it. So we want to make sure we keep the stress down. So you want to make sure, and Lori, thank you for posting that. Yeah. So we have all sorts of discounts going on at the spa. So I have some really great CBD, some CBD treats, some CBD stuff. And I would say start working towards your dog's stress levels now. You can't bring stress down like that without a drug. So when it gets that high, so we want to make sure that it stays at an even pace. So yeah, I'll be there. I have in the morning, I'm actually have a meeting in the morning that I need to do at 10:30, and then I'll be there all day tomorrow. So yeah, it's all month. So if you go on the spa's website, which is allthespa.com, there's all sorts of discounts that Lori just posted there for you guys. Truthfully, without sounding crazy, we had to do a crazy amount of discounts because this virus has really, really had its effect. I mean, I don't blame people. How scary, right? You're being told that animals are dying. Nobody wants that. So to help us, it would really help us if you guys could support our spa a little bit, whether you come to us or not, because we're struggling this holiday season with boarding. Last couple of nights we haven't had any dogs, which has never happened during this month ever. So, well, it did during COVID, but anyway. I want to make sure that I got to read this really quick. Who won for the most stressed dog? There's no better place than the spa. Oh, oh my gosh. And you offer better advice than most vets. Clearly wish I could go back in time and only listen to you. Oh, Siri, don't say that. That breaks my heart. So Siri she was a really stressed dog, but she passed away. Zoe was one of my babies, and she passed away. I think it's been about a year, right, Siri? To tell me. I think it's been It's been maybe a little over a year. But yeah, stress is something that you guys want to be paying close attention to, making sure. So one of the things, I know you guys have heard me say this about kibble, and I'm not here to talk and belittle anybody that's feeding kibble. But what I do want you to know is that kibble has a lot of sugar in it. It just does. It does not going to label it as sugar, but it just does. It has a lot of carbohydrate in it that turns to sugar. And if you want to keep your dog stress free, and if you have an anxiety dog already, you literally cannot keep the stress down of your dog and feed kibble. So you got to be really careful about that. I would say, since we're talking about boarding right now, in the holiday boarding, which is already stressful, right? Parents are stressed. People are going out of town. It's just a stressful time. Limit your kibble. Even if that means taking a cup of it away and adding some chicken or an egg or something else to it. Did I say? Sorry, I don't know what I just said. Adding something else to it, that is going to help too, is limiting the amount of sugars that are carbohydrates, those kind of things, so that we can bring down the anxiety. I had mentioned to you guys about vitamin B12. B12 is an amazing thing to start giving your pets. It's really easy to give. You give it in liquid form. I have some great vitamin B12 at the Spaw that is real easy to give, and it's made by the two crazy cat ladies who I 100% trust that they're not putting any other crap in it. It's not like vitamin D. You remember when I said do not give your dog a supplement of vitamin D? It's because too much vitamin D can kill your dog. So it can cause kidney failure and it can kill your dog. So we want to be really sure if we're giving anything vitamin D supplements that we already know what the vitamin D is and that it's under the advice of a veterinarian so that they can tell us how much to give and they can keep an eye on it. But vitamin B12 is soluble and it's really, really pretty safe. I shouldn't say pretty safe. I want to say it's 100% safe, but I don't know that I want to quite go there. But B12 is a really good thing for you to start giving your pets leading up to a, I love that you still use that term. Oh my gosh. I used to say, oh, Leah, I love that term. I haven't used that term in so long. So Leah says, you're the reason I went sad. So I used to say, if you want a happy dog, feed them sad. I haven't said that in so long. But yeah, if you want a happy dog, feed them sad. And SAD stands for species appropriate diet. And so I used to always joke, if you want a happy dog, feed them sad. We lost Zoe 8/4/22. She would be turning 12 on December 28th. I still talk about her pillow. Oh, her pillow. It hasn't gotten easier. Thank you for doing everything to me. So I loved her. I loved her and you, and I miss you. That's one of the things. Will this stay up? I missed the beginning of the info. Yeah, I think so. Lori, let me ask Lori behind the scenes if we can post this so they can watch the beginning of it, because I really do go everything to ask your boarding facilities. I know it's a scary time right now. People are in this really, really bad thing. Like I have to board my dog. In a lot of cases, I have to board my dog. I don't know what else to do. I want to see my family. I haven't seen my mom. There's so many. I've had people go, well, if you loved your dog, you wouldn't board them right now. I've heard that. And I'm thinking, really? Let's say that I'm just going to give one scenario. Let's just say that you live in California and your mother. Yes, Lori says the replay will be available. But let's just give this scenario. Let's just say that your mother lives in Florida and you live in California, and your mother's 95 years old and you can only get out there a couple of times a year, and one of them is during Christmas, and your mom is 95 and you're not sure that your mom is going to be around for very much longer. So which one are you going to do? And you can't take the dog because the dog can't fly because I don't know. I don't know. There's so many reasons, and you don't have any neighbors because maybe you just moved to California and you don't have anybody that can stay with your dog and you don't know anybody. And there's so many scenarios of why an animal has to stay in a boarding facility. So let's not pretend that that's not going to happen across this country. So I'm just trying to make it for those people a little bit prepared, know what questions to ask. But honestly, I have kind of an ulterior motive in having this, and that is I want boarding facilities to stop treating this like it's not important and just saying, okay, well, we're going to willy-nilly it and we're going to use this gross mop water and we're not going to shop back stuff up and we're not going to have HEPA filters because who cares? What are they going to do? It's not my fault if their dog gets sick, because that's a lot of how places operate. Well, what are they going to do? I'm not going to go spend $15,000 on HEPA filters. What are they going to do? It's not my fault if their dog gets sick. And then COVID hits and Carrie takes Jack home to bark at her. Oh yeah. I remember, oh, little Jackie did bark at my TV the whole time. It was so funny. Yeah, I feel like we're going through doggy COVID right now. And I mean that in the way that there's no dogs down there. I don't think that we have this new crazy virus out there. I really am suspect of it. And so is the AVMA, so the American Veterinary Board. So I feel very in same company when I'm talking to my vet friends and stuff about this stuff. So, but I'm certainly not here to tell you guys that all is going to be fine and everything is great. And because then when it's not, you're going to call me up and go, you know. I think the scariest part about this is the possible vet bills. If this helps you, if I just really don't think dogs are dying from this. I know some dogs have had, and I know if it was my dog that died from something they're calling a mystery illness, I'd be really mad if some stupid lady is telling me that dogs aren't dying from it. I understand that some dogs have died from what they're calling a mystery illness, and I can't even imagine the feeling of guilt. I shouldn't have taken my dog somewhere or done this. So I know it's awful, 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 but I really just think that it is a really small amount. Now, on the other side of this, I do want to talk to you guys about if your dog is immune compromised. Okay. So if your dog is on immune compromised medications, like Apoquel for one, Apoquel, we know it suppresses the immune system. It's used for allergies. If that is the case with your dog, I'm going to suggest to you to never, I shouldn't say never, be very, very extra cautious when you're putting your dogs in environments, especially if you have an old senior dog who's, I see these dogs that are 18 years old, has never boarded before. I'm going to give you like scenarios to think about with your own dogs. 18 years old, never boarded before, has Cushing's disease. He's on Apoquel for his allergies, and he eats a high sugar diet. He's overweight. He's just a ball of stress, like I said. That dog needs 100% to find somebody to babysit him at home. So, because it's just a perfect storm. It's just a perfect storm. So if you have a dog like this, and I'm not judging, maybe you just got him from a rescue and he came to you like that and you're still trying to fix his situation, don't throw him into a boarding facility. Please don't. Not even mine. Not even mine. And believe me, I don't think there's anything left I can do. So really pay close attention to your personal dog and what he's dealing with and how you feel about his health and whether or not he could deal with this. Because in my opinion, the dogs that are dying from this or have died from this, I would really like to know some more history on those dogs. I want to know if they were on immune suppressants. I want to know how old they were. I want to know if they were overweight. I want to know what they were eating. I want to know all of those things. And we don't know that yet. So I think we will at some point. So 5 nearby boarding causes most of the issues coming to her. Heard from my vet that 5 nearby boarding cases, most of the issues coming from her. Where are you guys? Where are you located, John? Because that's interesting to me. That was interesting to me. I'm curious about that. And the COVID hits and carry Jack. I'm just looking at some of this stuff. Sorry, guys. We just need to take care of them best we can without judgment. Yeah. Trying to find out where John is. Southern Orange. Okay. So here's another interesting thing for me. I have now I'm so obsessed with this kind of stuff, you guys, when it happens, because it's so interesting to me. So I went down and I spoke to a very well-known veterinarian in Garden Grove the other day. And then I also spoke to a very he's well-known in this area. The other vet is world-renowned. So the one vet that I talked to, and I don't have permission to really call their names out. Well, I could tell you it's Dr. Dodds. So I spoke with Dr. Dodds the other day about this this virus that's going around. And she didn't have much to say either, because she's like, I just, I think we're all in a panic. But I did talk to both of them and asked if they've seen any cases, and neither one of them. Dr. Woods said that he thinks he may have had one back in October, which is why I'm really thinking if we did have it, and here's the problem, we don't have a test for it. So there is no way we can say this is any different than kennel cough. And there's just no way. And maybe the kennel cough that we've always known is becoming resistant to, and here's the thing, there's different strains of kennel cough. Some are viral and some are bacterial. So vets a lot of times will put your dogs on an antibiotic, not even knowing whether you have viral kennel cough or bacterial kennel cough. What they're worried about is secondary infections. So they kind of throw the antibiotic at you, not knowing whether it's bacterial or viral. And so possibly what's going on, and that's what the big talk is that do we have a really strong viral kennel cough going around that has always been around? Or is this a new virus? And I think the word mystery new virus is what's scaring people, and it's causing this outright panic. Which is really sad. Sure, it's great if you don't have to board your dog, but if you find yourself in that really awful situation where now you're guilted into being a bad pet parent because you brought your dog to a grooming facility or a boarding facility, it's kind of sad. So I'm hoping that there's a couple things I hope didn't come from this. I hope that you don't take this as me going, everything's fine, just bring your dog to me and everything's great. That's not why I'm here. If you're scared and you're uncomfortable, then leave your dogs home. By all means, please do not let people pressure you into doing something with your dog, me or anybody else. It's just not worth it. And that stress will pass on into your dog. So don't do it. So I hope you didn't take this as me saying that everything's fine and you should bring your dog to boarding. Not what I'm saying. I hope that you didn't take this as every other boarding facility in the entire United States, Canada, and Mexico is bad and the spa is great, so you should all fly out to California, because I didn't do that either. I'm hoping you didn't take that. I think there's probably some amazing boarding facilities out there, amazing groomers, amazing veterinarians that are doing fabulous jobs. I just think it should become standard practice so that we can take that and it be the standard, and that's what is accepted, and that's how you get your kennel license and all of that kind of stuff. But they go to the vet often, and one of them caught a bad cough 5 months ago. Bingo. That's what I'm saying right there. Your veterinarian hospitals should absolutely 100% have HEPA filters. And the fact that they don't and haven't for years is baffling to me. So I start talking to your vets about it so we can get a standard of care going that this should be the case, and especially vet hospitals. That's where all the sick dogs go. You know what? One thing I didn't talk to you guys about that's important is airflow. I forgot to talk to you guys about airflow. That's the other thing you need to talk to your kennels about, your boarding facilities, your grooming facilities, your veterinarian hospitals. What's the airflow like? Do they have constant? So you want to have air conditioning. If they're boarding, you want to have air conditioning 24 hours a day running constantly. The place should be on the cool level. We know that warm temperatures, of all the places to have a HEPA filter would be the vet hospital. It's crazy to me. It should be in the very front lobby. And it should be throughout the whole place, but it's just, especially because the dogs if you have a sick dog that has kennel cough and they're coming in. Now, some vets will do this. I know that Dr. Woods does this, and I'm very happy that he does this. If you call and you're making an appointment for a dog with an upper respiratory infection or something that they think might be contagious, they make you wait in the car and they take you last dog of the day. And so you go in the last dog, and that way they can clean out the whole lobby, and your dog is the only one in the entire thing. So that's amazing that they're doing that. So you want to make sure that that's happening. If you're sitting next to a dog that's over in the corner coughing, that's no good. Okay, so airflow, you guys, that was the other thing I wanted to make sure I talked to you guys. Do they have air conditionings? And I mean through the whole place. Don't walk into a facility and walk in and go, oh, cool, they have air conditioning. It's nice and cool in here. I can't even begin to tell you how many places I know for a fact only have air conditioning in their front lobby. And even if they have it in the back, they don't run it because they don't want to pay for it. So they don't have constant air conditioning, or they don't even have it back there. So ask that question. What's the airflow like? What do you have? So we do a couple of things for airflow. For one, we have one giant fan that helps circulate air out. And then we have a large roll-up door, and we keep that open all day long, even with our air conditioning going, because we want just a constant flow of fresh air. We keep fans blowing all towards the out, so we just have this constant airflow going. That's super, super important. So if you have like a whole closed up area and there's no airflow going, nothing drawing it out, nothing drawing it in, the air conditioning isn't being used, then they're all just in there breathing the same air, no HEPA filters. Well, duh. And don't be fooled, though. Really don't be fooled to think that I'm just going to go to a place where it's all outdoors, because it still gets transferred. But the more airflow you have, the better opportunities we have to keep our dogs from being sick. So I almost forgot about the air conditioning and making sure the airflow is going. It's super important. So caught a bad a couple of months ago. I really, if Facebook user, I'm sorry, I'm replying that whoever said that about a bad cough 5 months ago. Like I said, I think this has been going on, and it's gone through. I think it's done its thing, and it's probably going to come back, because it always does. Same at my vet. She has her dog at the office, so the place is clean, and sick dogs outside, and even well dogs one at a time. Yeah. It's important. It really is. You want to make sure that they're taking proactive approaches. But it's also one of the reasons why I hate to say it. And if there's any vets on here that I love and you have a boarding facility, I'm about to probably make you really, really mad. And maybe here's the thing. Some vet hospitals have different entrances for their boarding facility and their sickness, and that would be great. But I think you have to be really, really careful, not just for this virus, but any virus or bacteria that are going parvo, for example. If a dog comes in, if you've got parvo is a puppy disease. So if you have a dog over the age of, I'll go as far as 2, but I really think over the age of 1.5 years, but we'll say 2, they're not going to get parvo. But if you had a 6-month-old puppy and he was in the lobby with a dog who's had diarrhea for 5 days, who's 6 months old, there's a possibility that dog has parvo, and your dog's now sitting in the lobby with him, and maybe the vet doesn't know. So you got to be really careful. That's why I don't recommend boarding at veterinary hospitals. I know it makes us think that they're safer because there's a vet there, but I assure you that's not the case. So anyway. So, all right, guys, I actually have to get back to work. I ran out of there so I could get home. Looking, I didn't see that. Something about it. It sounds like something about an ear infection. Oh, did somebody say something about that I missed? I'm so sorry. I'm trying to look through these. I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I must have missed it. So I'm so sorry. But our fruit sugar is okay. Oh, I didn't see that. So it's a different kind of a sugar. It definitely doesn't create that carbohydrate load that creates that anxiety in us or animals. Like I can eat an apple and I'm not going to feel that buzz that I get through it. So I would say yes, not to worry about fruits, those kind of things. I think they're fine. I stopped nibble since joining this group, but I'm feeding. Oh, good. I'm glad. Kibble, I think is what you meant, but you're feeding can. Good for you. She might still be here if I did. I guess I missed a whole lot of this because I was babbling on. Seriously wish you knew my previous dog too. I do too. Oh, good. Yes, fresh food. Make sure you get fresh food, especially if you're boarding your dogs. You want to keep away that sugar. I want to make sure I get as many of these as I can. So I hope this helps. I don't know how many of you guys are needing to board this holiday season, but I hope I gave you guys something to think about. I hope that you will communicate this with your boarding facilities, because we really need to change it, because, it's just, that's how stuff's spreading. So if one boarding facility isn't doing their job, and then it keeps going and moving. So really, really, really think about what you guys are doing leading up to your boarding this holiday weekend. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you're like, oh gosh, I need to, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't do that. So just to recap really quick for you, ask the questions you need to ask to your boarding facilities. It's important. Bring your own honey if you think you can do that. And then make sure that you keep how much CBD for stress. It really is all going to depend on what CBD you're using. So I can't tell you how much because I don't know which CBD company. And so I don't want to be, I don't want to just be so general. But one thing I can tell you about CBD is you want it to be full spectrum. You want it to be organic. You want it to be without any flavorings or stuff added into it, all that kind of stuff. It should look like, smell like, and taste like. I always say that. Look like, smell like, and taste like. I am hesitant to say taste like because not everybody knows what CBD tastes like. But if it doesn't look like, smell like, or taste like CBD, there's a good chance that it's been overly processed and it's not going to work at all. So it should be a little bit, the coloring shouldn't be clear. It shouldn't be clear oil based. It shouldn't taste like chocolate and it shouldn't smell like roses. Okay, if that helps. So I want it to look like, taste like, smell like. It should be organic. It should be a full spectrum CBD. And then you're just going to need to go off of what the bottle tells you. So if the bottle tells you to do 4 drops, you want to microdose that for 21 days. Is the studies show that if you microdose for 21 days, you can help bring down Earth Buddy hemp extract. Still one of, I love Earth Buddy. So you want to bring down the anxiety by microdosing. So if it said 4 drops, I would want you to do 2 drops. You could even go down to 1 drop for 21 days. If you can't do 21 days because boarding in 2 weeks, that's fine. And then the day of boarding, or the night before, actually, the night before, I want you to give a full dose, and then the morning of a full dose, and then bring that bottle with you so that your boarding facility can continue dosing throughout the stay. And this is just for dogs that you think are going to be stressed. If they're not a stressed dog and they've been boarding there forever, you don't need to do this. This is just for our stressed cases, our older senior dogs, just like anything that you think might cause some stress in them. Be prepared for that. So I got that. I want to make sure I get everything for you guys. Diet, making sure we're removing the sugars, vitamin B12, really, really good for stress. I think that's good. I think we covered everything and I got to get back to work. So thank you guys so much for caring enough about your dogs to be here and listening to me rant about what we can do. And then if your dogs do get sick, let's say you leave the boarding facility, most things, and I don't think, like I said, I can't really say for sure because we don't know for sure about this. Most things have a 3 to 5 day incubation period. That's typical. So if you pick up your dog on Monday and he starts coughing on Tuesday, he probably got it from there. What are you going to do? So you want to pay really close attention to your dog's temperature. How bad is the cough? What is his respiratory rate? So find out what's normal respiratory rate and keep an eye out. Act fast. Don't just do nothing because then it could lead to the pneumonia that everybody's worried about. So you want to act fast, which take them to your vet hospital. Have them do some chest x-rays if you think that it is that. The other thing I would suggest is following Dr. Judy Morgan and try to figure out after there are some great herbs. I know there's a lot of stuff about if your dog gets sick, what to do, which I'm not going to address tonight because that could kind of take a lot of craziness going on. So, but if that happens, just make sure that you act fast on it. Make sure you contact the boarding facility, which, by the way, come here. By the way, there was another thing I wanted to mention to you guys really quick. Oh, Ansel. If you're fine. Okay. Yes, I know someone's at the door. Thank you. Okay. He's always got to tell me when someone's at the door. Now I lost my train of thought. Great. What was I saying? This was important. Okay, well, it's gone. I'm going to have to probably give it to you guys in an email because I can't remember what I was just about to tell you. Hi, Pops. My father-in-law just got here and my dog always has to. Here, go see him. Okay, go. Okay, yes. Go tell him. Go see him. Okay, say hi. All right? Okay. Just pick him up, Pops. Because he wants you to just pick him up. Help. Just pick him up.
It's a stop.
Oh,
Pick him up?
yeah, if you pick him up, he'll stop. But it's fine. It's over now.
He might lose an arm.
No, he's not going to. Shoot, I am so sorry, guys. Oh my gosh, Wendy said one of my clients says that her dog's barking at Pops too. Shoot, there was one more thing I wanted to tell you guys, and I completely lost my train of thought because of that. I am so sorry. Dang it. Well, if I think about it, I will contact you guys back. I know as soon as I turn this off, I'm gonna be, oh yeah, I wanted to tell them this. But I got you guys the most important things, I promise. Oh, hi Kuno. Is Kuno going to be staying with us? Is Kuno coming for I don't want to put you on the spot. But so you don't have to answer that. I just didn't know if he was. So if he's going to be with us at Christmas. So all right, guys, I got to head back to work really soon here. So I will see you guys later. If I can think of what I was thinking, I will certainly contact you guys and I'll write something in it or something. Next week, grooming next week. Okay. Yep. All right, guys, have a wonderful evening. Like I said, if you have any questions after this, contact me. We can talk about JPAC is coming. Yay. And I will see you guys, I don't know, whenever I see you. I don't do lives like I used to. I used to do them regularly, but I haven't been doing them as much unless I find something super important that I think that everybody should know about. And I knew this was a huge panic for people. And I think that's fair. I mean, even I was like, oh my God, what is it, right? Especially coming off, I think they timed it perfect. They knew, like, with us all going through COVID and knowing what a new virus can do by calling it a new mystery virus, it really kind of gets you really scared. So, all right, guys, have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Lori.